Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And there we have a major scale, and today's lesson is on intervals and chords. The distance between two notes, as we have already learned, is what we call an interval. The distance between C and D is an interval of a second. The distance between C and E, 1, 2, 3, an interval of a third. Between C and F, 1, 2, 3, 4, an interval of a fourth. C and G, a fifth. C and A, a sixth. C and B, a seventh. Okay. Now, at visual look at this scale here, all of these notes look to be not only moving by step, but they all look to be equally distanced. But we have learned when we examine these notes on a piano keyboard, they aren't equally distanced. Here we have the note C, there's the note C, here's the note D, and there's the note D, and yet in between there's a black key which may be called C sharp or D flat. Now if I refer this as D flat, it's also a second, but it's a smaller interval than from C to D. We can hear that difference in tone. There's C to D flat, and there's C to D. C to D is a larger distance, and D is higher than D flat. Okay, so we call these intervals both a second, but we need to give them a particular quality name. And so what's been decided is that we would call C to D flat a minor second, and there's a distance of what we call a half step. And C to D, a major second, would be the distance of 2 half steps or a whole step. Okay, working the same way, we've also learned that if we went from C to E flat, that would be the distance of 1, 2, 3 half steps or 1.5 steps, and that's a minor third. C to E flat. Whereas C to E is a distance of 2 whole steps. Here's C, and here's E. There's a whole step here, a whole step there, or if we count the half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. So C to E is a major third, C to E flat a minor third. C to D a major second, C to D flat a minor second. Now moving beyond the realms of major and minor seconds and major and minor thirds, we have the interval of a fourth from C to F, and an interval of a fifth from C to G. Now if we compare F to G, we can see that there is a black key in between. This is a whole step. So the distance between C and F is a fourth, 4 notes. C and G is a fifth. The distance between C to F, a fourth, is 5 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 2.5 steps altogether. And the distance between C and G is 7 half steps, or 3.5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half steps. And so we call this distance between C and F, dun, 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 a fourth, a perfect fourth, and the distance between C and G, a perfect fifth. So 2.5, 3.5. Right in between, with this black key, either an F sharp or a G flat, we have what we call a tritone. That's an interval of 3 whole steps. And it's got 2 names. We sometimes will call it an augmented fourth, If we go from C to F sharp, that would be an augmented fourth. If it's from C to G flat, it's called a diminished fifth. Okay, same tone, same pitch, but two different ways of spelling it. So to review, here's a representation of our keyboard. You can refer to a minor second is just a half step, C to D flat. A major second is a whole step, C to D. A minor third is 3 half steps, 1.5 steps, C to E flat. Whereas a major third is 2 whole steps, C to E. A perfect fourth is 2.5 steps, C to F. 2.5 steps. And a perfect fifth is 3.5 steps. 1, 2, 2.5, 3.5. These intervals are important, all of them, in helping us be able to understand the relationship of pitch and melody, melodic intervals. But we also use some of these intervals for the construction of chords. Most important, it's important to note that major and minor thirds are congruent, are related to the formation of major-minor chords. So here we have a kind of representation of the keyboard, and down below we have a chart with the scale tones down on the bottom in bold. So here's our C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And above each of these tones is a third. And using this chart here, we can kind of see, oh yes, that is a major third, whereas between D to F is a minor third. 1.5 steps compared to 2 whole steps. From E to G, a minor third, half step, whole step. From F to A, 2 whole steps. From G to B, whole step, major third. From A to C, whole step, half step. And from B to D, can't quite see it all here, but this is half step, and here it is half step, and whole step. So again, another minor third. So we have the sequence of major minor thirds shown here in a C major scale, with the pitches would be above, and this over here is just simply an easy way for you to kind of check and review this part. This is especially important because our chords that we're going to learn about in a moment, one of the central features in terms of determining whether a chord has a major or minor quality will be what's the third. Okay. Another important interval in determining chords has to do with the note that is 5 notes above the lowest note in the chord. We call that the fifth. And so we're going to take a look at the fifths, and we're going to make note that some of these will be perfect and some will not. In fact, most will be perfect. So between C and G, there's C and G. Again, we had 7 half steps on that. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Remember, that was a perfect fifth. Well, as it turns out, between C and G, D and A, E and B, F and C, G and D, and A and E, all of those are perfect fifths. I'll just kind of play a series of them so you can see that that's true. And that goes all the way through until we get to the note B. When we get to the note B, it's going to sound a little different. So B to F is a diminished fifth. A diminished fifth is smaller than a perfect fifth. Perfect fifth would have been 3.5 steps. Diminished fifth is just 3. So we can make a perfect fifth diminished by lowering it by half a step. Excellent. In the sequence of scale tones from C to B, if we take a look at perfect fourths and perfect fifths, the only two intervals associated with the tritone, the diminished fifth or augmented fourth, is the 4th and 7th scale degree. So when we're going up the scale or down the scale, if we use a combination of B to F or F to B, we will have a tritone. From F to B is 4 tones, that would be an augmented fourth. From B to F, that's 5 tones, that'd be a diminished fifth. Okay, now we're going to talk about chords. And chords are made up of 3 tones, what we call a root, a third, and a fifth. The root is the foundation note. It is the basis of the chord. So if we're talking about a C chord, the lowest note of that chord would be a C, and that would constitute the root of the chord. The third and the fifth are intervals above the root of the chord, and a major third above the root would result in a major sounding chord. And all of the major and minor chords also have what we call a perfect fifth, which we've determined is 3.5 steps. Major third, 2 whole steps. Minor third, 1.5 steps. Yes? Okay. So when we're taking a look at some of these chords, we would note that some of them are made up of a major third, and some of them have minor thirds. Almost all of them have perfect fifths except for the 7th scale degree. Remember that one was a diminished fifth, B to F, so that's going to result in a different sounding chord. Let's just review all of these for a moment. Starting in C major, if we play the notes C, E, and G using our thumb, our third finger, and our pinky, 1, 3, and 5, and you play that chord, you would find it's a major chord. Sounds something like this. If we go to the next chord, D, F, and A, we play those 3 notes. Again, if we're able to discern the quality difference between it, it would be because between D and F is a minor third, and that makes this chord a minor chord. Okay, it's not less important, just referring to this interval as being smaller than a major third. E, G, and B, that is also a minor chord because from E to G is a minor third. F to A is a major third, so is G to B. These 2 chords, F and G, are major chords. So if we go down the sequence, C, D, E, F, G, and now A minor. And the last one is B diminished. And if that had been an F sharp, it would have sounded like this. Diminished, like that. Last time. In summary, the 1, 4, and 5 chord in a major key, C, F, and G, are major. The 2, 3, and 6 chord are minor. And the 7th chord with the diminished fifth is a diminished triad.